sometimes when I'm just like, man, I've been getting fucking death threats since like 2014. I'm not a transphobic person. I'm not a racist person. Sometimes when I'm talking about optics or when I'm talking about activism or how to put your best foot forward and I'm speaking over marginalized communities and I'm speaking against, it comes across like I'm speaking against marginalized communities. I'm doing that because I feel like I do know better on how to present your movement to a broader audience. This does not mean that I'm a transphobic person. This does not mean that I'm a racist person. The difference between me and
oh, okay. Actually, I think we might have the same take here on this.
and in this particular instance with like Ana, however, is that I'm not going to look to like a random, otherwise innocuous, silly fucking news story that is the type of news story that the right would absolutely latch on, to fucking create this this massive issue and highlight it. Some of those people in the orgs don't relay the point well. I agree, coming from you and how you present it makes it easily understandable. Yeah, except those people are trying to do the right thing. And also, those people are overall irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. You know what I mean? It's dumb to hyper-focus on this shit. Does that make sense? Why I don't cover it? I think it's fucking stupid to cover something like bonus hole. It's kind of like, I'll give you an example that's even a broader example, right? Neopronouns. I don't fucking understand it, and I don't want to, and I don't care, and I'm never gonna fucking talk about it. Obviously, there are plenty of fucking debate perverts who are regularly in here who are like, Hasan, give me your thoughts on neopronouns. Give me your thoughts on neopronouns. Give me your thoughts on fucking neopronouns. And it's like, nope, not gonna do that. Don't care. Not happening.
Wait,
and in a lot of instances,
what the heck's a neopronoun? Neopronouns are a category of neologistic English third-person personal pronouns beyond he, she, they, one, it. Neopronouns are preferred by some okay, yeah, I've seen this in the wild, like Zer.
it comes across real fucking cringe, except for all the times you've talked about it. No, I haven't talked about it that much, and it's not really a thing that I talk about at all. It's pointless. It's pointless to talk about this shit. Do you get it? It's like getting mad at some fucking 14-year-old on Twitter who's using neopronouns now, you know what I mean? And the neopronouns are like deer or something. And now you're like, whoa, what's happening to society? It's like, dude, calm the fuck down. Calm down. It's not like a significant thing. There's no like, government mandate. Shut the fuck up. If you were to look at the neopronouns discourse, you know who uses neopronouns more than like actual trans people? Fucking right-wingers who are always like, my pronouns are suck my ass.
Actually, I don't think first of all, the otherkin thing I think is pretty fringe. I don't think that that's ever going to go anywhere in society. I think that that's going to be a fringe thing forever, probably. But the neo pronouns thing, like Zer, yeah, I don't know. I see that shit like in the wild. Like I don't know if I've ever seen it in real life. But like on Twitter, you will see people with that in their bios. Not just like not if you go looking for them, but like you'll just randomly see it in people's bios. At least I have for sure. I don't know about other people. Maybe you have a really weird feed that other people don't have.
It's literally fucking right-wingers that use neopronouns more than like actual fucking trans people. Shut up. Shut up. Don't talk about it. It's just so stupid. Some deleted tweets from Anna the Juniper. Yeah, I showed some of this already. I don't give a shit how many viewers turn on me. I will never minimize any political violence of any kind. It's what losers do when they can't strategize and win an argument. You're fucking brain dead. Don't gaslight me to say that barricading someone in a fucking classroom for 3 fucking hours is non-violent. This speaker had nothing to do with the KKK. Disgusting. Barricading speakers is not violent. You are genuinely stupid if you cannot see how insane it is. You're comparing trans people to defending ourselves to groups like the KKK. The civil rights movement did not use the same strategies of the trans movement. They didn't barricade speakers they disagree with in a classroom for 3 hours. They persuaded through non-violence to show America their humanity. I think people feel like everyone has to immediately respect their positions, especially when they're talking about like optics or putting your best foot forward. I myself have done this many times. This, however, does not change my perspective. And I also don't cover that endlessly in the same vein as like I don't talk about fucking neopronouns. There are always going to be certain things that you don't agree with in a broader movement. You have the capacity as an ally, even though I fucking hate that term, right? To look at something like that and go, oh yeah, this is fucking bullshit. Like I'm not gonna make a big deal out of it. I don't give a fuck. The hundreds of pieces of
shockingly good take from Hasan. Actually, maybe not that shocking, but damn, yeah. No, I'm 100% against this whole fucking ally stuff. I really am. This idea that, oh, you're an ally, like, it's so cringe. I think we should view humans as individuals with their own thoughts and ideas and not like, oh, well, you're an ally. Like, that's such a fucking cringe thing. Like, no, I'm a person who thinks, and that's all there is to it. There's no allyship. I'm just a human being.
legislation that's passing at the state legislature level, or the temper tantrums that fucking right-wingers throw when like a trans person does like a 30-second spot for Bud Light, and it turns this into like a national trans panic as though Bud Light is like personally transing you with a gun in your own home. All of that stuff is significantly more important. And I think if we're going to talk about trans issues, instead of talking about like ridiculous random people saying bonus hole, I choose to cover those things. And the reason why I choose to cover those things is because those things are actually important. You intentionally misunderstood what I said, you moron. Lol. No, I didn't. You said barricading people you disagree with is nonviolent. If an alt-right group did that to a trans speaker, I'm sure you change your tune. You're dishonest, childish, and batshit crazy. Not sure if you noticed, but states currently using violence against trans people. Curious as to see why you seem to care about the grifter who terrorizes trans people than trans people who are being affected by this legislation and violence. You don't watch the show, so you have no idea what I talk about or how often I defend the trans community. I think the fringe shit and activists like you turn the country against people. You're just too stupid to see it. So here's the thing. Offering a blanket, oh, you barricaded this person, you're engaging in political violence in a situation like this, and I don't even know what this fucking situation is, but offering that blanket is basically centrism. The same kind of neck-bearded centrism that TYT has been attacked by for years and years and years, which is why it's so odd to see. It's why it's so fucking odd to see this coming from victims of those supposedly centrist commentators. Ultimately, the reason why Ana has responded that way is because she does cover state legislatures doing anti-trans legislation. I mean, here, let's look at it. This is the reason why Ana says, you don't know what I cover. Here's why. Republican-centered first trans woman elected in Montana, Zoe Zephyr. Inspiring Nebraska state senator shows Democrats how to fight. Tennessee passes law that bans drag shows and gender-affirming care. Do you guys think that in any of these videos, TYT is taking an anti-trans perspective?
You know, he started off very skeptical and like saying that, oh, I bet they're being transphobic. But I'm glad he's at least now recognizing that his initial take was wrong. Like, props to him for that.
No, of course not. The only issue where there is a disagreement, I know this, is trans people in sports, okay? They feel as though, and I can't speak on their every single person that works there, but I do think that in certain circumstances, there is definitely that little bit of transphobia that's like baked into the conversation where instead of going, I don't give a fuck if like a 14-year-old trans girl is actually participating in high school sports, which like normalizes her existence a lot better, and also on top of that, like allows them to have a level of gender affirmation. And I think overall, this like hyper focus on said 14-year-old in like different states and like literally crafting state legislation to dunk on that 14-year-old is actually fucking stupid. That's my perspective on it. And that it is completely crafted by psychopathic right-wingers and originally focus tested by like right-wing insane zealots that have lobbying groups and whatnot. Insane right-wing lobbying groups focus test what method of attack is the most successful against trans people. They find out that it's fairness in sports, just like affirmative action is fairness in getting into school. Like Americans want to believe in fairness, they want to believe in meritocracy, and that doesn't exist in the real world. But it doesn't matter. They still want to believe in it. So you do market research and figure out that if you slap on the fucking unfair sticker onto an issue, you can get a lot more people to come to your side. So they do that, and that's why TYT thinks like it's an irrelevant issue in the grand scheme of things. But that doesn't overall mean that they're like transphobic or that they are going to stop covering anti-trans legislatures. They are covering it, right? So for that reason, I think Ana thinks like, no, I am covering this shit, except I have a disagreement here with barricading people you disagree with being nonviolent. Yes, it does mean that they're transphobic. Yeah, it does, except every single person in the United States of America is transphobic to a certain degree. Do you want me to go back to the same conversation over and over again? Like, if you are a trans person.
Wait, hang on, I got to re-listen to this. Did he just say, if you oppose barricading speakers, you're transphobic? No shot.
And that's why TYT thinks like it's an irrelevant issue in the grand scheme of things, but that doesn't overall mean that they're like transphobic or that they are going to stop covering anti-trans legislatures. They are covering it, right? So for that reason, Ana thinks like, no, I am covering this shit, except I have a disagreement here with barricading people you disagree with being nonviolent. Yes, it does mean that they're transphobic. Yeah, it does, except every single person in the United States of America is transphobic to a certain degree.
Yes, it does.
Do you want me to go back to the same conversation over and over?
Yes, it does mean they're transphobic because of this like one disagreement about barricading. Like the barricading speakers thing has nothing to do with like transphobia though. Like I think Char, you would agree with me, right, Hannah, that this like if you disagree with a specific tactic that a specific activist has taken, that means like you oppose the activist movement. Like that's, or you're, no, even worse, right? He's trying to say that they're bigoted, right? That's what he's really trying to say. And he's saying, oh, well, everyone is to some extent, so it's okay. But I don't think that's a good take.
Again, like if you are a trans person, I don't know if you are or not, you probably know that already. It's the default position. America is transphobic. You know that is the case. There are plenty of trans people who were transphobic originally. They had internalized transphobia even. You know what I mean? Yeah, so you know that already. So because of that reason, you just have to like parse through just any kind of discourse, because there is like a sea of transphobic shit, and you have to basically pick your battles in that regard. It still doesn't matter. It still should not happen it should not come from like an otherwise progressive institution. I don't agree with that. A lot of these things that come out about trans people and what they're doing and what they care about is all in the same vein of like just creating just awful discourse around trans people. Just trying to fucking throw shit as best as possible. Be like, trans people are cringe, trans people are violent, trans people are pedophiles, trans people are fucking trying to, groom your children. There is a wide spectrum of anti-trans sentiment, all of which plays the same role, which is when you think about trans people, if you ever consider like a trans person, you want to think that they're somehow bad, or you want to think that they're somehow toxic. Okay, you want others to think that they're somehow toxic. That's what transphobic people do. In many ways, this is why I say transphobia is a mental illness. By the way, trans people didn't barricade anyone. That transphobic fifth-place loser swimmer barricaded herself because she didn't want to deal with the protesters yelling at her. It's a total lie that anyone barricaded her but herself. Yeah. And in most circumstances, the story in and of itself is also different than the way people cover it, different than the way transphobic people weaponize it, right? There's always some like some minutia that they utilize or that they weaponize against trans people. First-hand context, I work at SFSU. The whole Riley Gaines drama was a publicity stunt bullshit. They came back to campus for more drama but got ignored. They're not victims in the slightest. Red meat for chuds, and it's as inane as bonus hole. Exactly. Thank you. That is what I'm trying to say. And hyper-focusing on that and turning it into a larger issue like the trans people are doing political violence to their enemies is transphobic. You're creating more transphobic takes. You're giving more room for people to legitimize these otherwise really stupid stories. And I know TYT, and I know their coverage on issues like this in the past, and this is definitely different than the way that they've covered it. Ultimately, this discourse continues in the way that it is because you can just, you just think it's like disposable. You know what I mean? You just think that the issues and the people are somewhat disposable, so you don't care about like what kind of negative sentiment it's presenting. At a certain point, it moves beyond like I'm trying to have a conversation about optics, about the optics of like activism, and moves into I'm dunking on trans activists on the timeline regularly, while also hyper focusing on some of the silliest points of contention that aren't even real issues at all. Because ultimately, if you care about practicality, if you care about praxis, if you care about like ensuring that the trans community puts their best foot forward, like all these activists put their best foot forward, right? And it's not like a genuine disagreement with like most trans issues, then you wouldn't be consistently talking about this, because lighting a fire under this over and over again as like right-wingers celebrate all this shit that you're saying, it makes the discourse way worse. It's just yet another rendition of like trans people are cringe and stupid and annoying.
I don't see what's wrong with the just condemn it and move on.
And that's why it's kind of valid for us to ensure that they are not playing in sports in any way, and that like maybe there's going to be some drag bans, but we can turn the other cheek towards that. Even when Ana and Jank have consistently defended against those systemic forms of oppression, especially when it comes to legislation.
Sometimes I'm a little scared or I'm afraid of like talking to people who are outside of my race because I don't know if I'm going to unintentionally step in it, right?
Yeah.
Like there's and I hate that.
Right.
Like there's this like, because like if all of the messages toward me and people who, I'm Armenian, but still they call me white passing, so just gotta go with that, right? If people who look like me are constantly told you are inherently racist. Okay, you are inherently a bad person.
I
mean, if that's the start, and I had this debate with Jenk when it came to our rhetoric in regard to the other side, right? If the starting off point is you are trash and we think you're evil,
Yeah,
then
totally.
how does that? You're never going to move in a better direction. You're not going to move the country in a better direction. You're not going to improve race relations. You're going to make it
Here's
worse.
a question for Hasan. Does he think that Ana and Chink are going to go through their entire lives now in every single show talking about bonus holes because of this incident? Does he think that that's going to be like everything that they... I mean, of course he doesn't, right? He even said that they've in the past covered things in a way that he agrees with. So why would he be like, oh, well, now that they're bringing this up, they're adding so much fuel to the fire just by bringing it up? Well, they're bringing it up and condemning it, which I think they should be doing. And then I think they're pretty much moving on, right? If someone else brings it up to them, they might talk about it. Or if it comes up in a relevant conversation in some way, they might talk about it. But I don't think they're going to be out there every single day talking about bonus holes on Young Turks from now on and promoting like this idea. Char says, the problem with just condemn and move on is that it's usually a scenario where good ideas are being exercised clumsily and we don't want to throw the baby out the bathwater. Okay, well, what is the good idea with bonus hole? Or I know you're speaking in generalities, but is there a good idea with bonus hole or Latinx or birthing person or the Z-zer pronouns, right? What's the good idea that we're missing? I'm serious. I'm being genuine. Like, what's the good idea? And you can take any one of those. You can take all four or whatever. You don't have to defend every single bad thing that someone said or every clumsy attempt at saying something even.
And that's what I see happening. I think
the way to think about this is all lib shit, dude. This is literally liberalism in action. Here's why. It stems from like people having honest disagreements or debates or worse, Twitter spats, and what that does to systemic forms of oppression. It does nothing. Every single random fucking account on Twitter could say all white people are evil and deserve to suck shit, and that doesn't move the needle at all. Here, let me explain to you in a way that like I know Ana and everyone else at TYT has experienced through the GamerGate era. This discourse that Ana is engaging in right now is identical to the men are trash.
GamerGate didn't give a shit about the Young Turks. Like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck, dude? This guy's got no idea. Like, what the heck? We didn't care. We didn't care about the Young Turks. Like, why does he make it seem like? And he didn't say GamerGate era. Like, is he talking about like the general move in society in certain areas, at least? Well, I mean, I think a lot of society moved in a more anti-social justice warrior direction, quote unquote. Like, if he's talking about like that, but GamerGate era, like, dude, GG, and he said earlier that GamerGate cares about the Young Turks, that they were attacking the Young Turks. It's like, bro, GamerGate didn't attack the Young Turks. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, we don't give a shit. Like, we might have like criticized like one or two things over the course of like what GamerGate was like fucking 5 years. Over 5 years, was there ever anybody posting on Twitter criticizing Young Turks? Probably, maybe. Maybe you guys said something about GG that was incorrect. I don't know, or that we disagreed with.